Councilmember Sylvia Rannis made the motion to put a charter amendment on the ballot. And the charter amendment, for those of you who don't know, the charter is essentially the constitution for the city. The charter amendment would enable us to strengthen the general plan, and particularly the protection of our open space and urban growth boundary. And the reason why it's important here in District 8 and Evergreen is that you all know there is a measure that's on the June ballot that would call for the construction of a gated community for the wealthy in the Evergreen foothills here. And it's caused an awful lot of consternation for a lot of folks, including myself. In fact, I just came over from a fundraiser they had for the campaign. I think some of your friends were over there too, so I understand that's why we've got a small group today. So what this is going to enable us to do is this. We'll now have another measure on the June ballot. I can't tell you what letter it's going to be. They assign, the registrar will sign that shortly. But it means that even though we know that these developers who stand to make be more than $1 billion in revenue off of this development if they're successful, so they're going to put millions of dollars into this campaign. We'll have an opportunity to have a charter amendment that voters could approve with a simple majority. And if this charter amendment prevails, it would prevent construction of developments like that one. And so we have a path. We have a path, and I hope that you'll get more information about both measures in the weeks and months ahead. And I encourage you to get engaged in whatever way you think is best to support the community. So I'm sorry, you want to ask about that, Marilyn?
If both measures pass, would the charter amendment wipe that out?
Yes, the charter amendment would prevail because the same way it works with the U.S. Constitution and lesser laws. Okay. A charter always prevails over a lesser ordinance. Okay. So that's how it would work. Even if they get 90% of the vote for their measure, if we have 50% plus one on the charter amendment, then it would essentially prevent them from being able to build. Now, all of this is going to be subject to a lot of litigation. I can tell you they're going to sue us within the next day or two just to try to keep this measure off the ballot. So you're going to hear and read plenty in the papers about what's going to happen with all that litigation. But Councilmember Rannis has really been a great champion on this, and I think I owe her some added thanks. The important thing about the measure that we just put on the ballot today, which is the charter amendment, is that it doesn't just relate to Evergreen. It actually calls for a strengthening of the urban growth boundary in several parts of the city where we know there's a lot of development pressure for more sprawl. By that I mean Alameda Valley and the Alameda Reserve, Calera, Coyote Valley, Evergreen. So these are all areas where we know there's a lot of pressure to keep perpetuating the sprawl that has given us the awful traffic that we have today. It was about 40 years ago that we had, since it's the International Day of the Woman, the first female mayor of any major U.S. city, of course, Janet Gray Hayes, who led the charge to create a green line, right? And what a great legacy to leave for future generations, right? This is now our legacy to uphold. And so I'm hopeful that, as a city, as a community, we're going to appreciate what that means. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, we only have time for one more question.
Okay. All right. Yes, sir.
Somebody said there's now two ballots, two committees on town. One to be for the senior housing, and the other was the charter.
Yeah.
And is there going to be any problem with them getting confused with each other? Because often on these ballots, we're the same ballot initiatives.
Yeah.
After a while, you don't know which one is which.
That's a good question. We're going to have, I think they're pretty distinct, but then again, I've been in the weeds for a while. One's going to be about building almost 1,000 homes, and one is going to be about protecting our urban growth boundary. So hopefully folks will figure that out.
one, the charter includes state that this is different from the senior housing issue?
Yes.
It's going to clearly state that this is not related to each other?
They are somewhat.
Yeah, there is a connection, right? If you vote this charter amendment, that would strengthen the urban growth boundary. And by the way, it doesn't change anything about a general plan, it just keeps our general plan, makes it harder to change the general plan in the outlying areas in the city. So I think it's, I have no idea if voters are going to understand clearly exactly the interaction. What happens if this passes and that passes, right? That's stuff we all have to explain. We're going to try to get the word out to everybody so everybody understands that clearly. But I think it will be very clear to voters that one measure is about building a lot of housing in Evergreen, and one measure is about strengthening our urban growth boundary against sprawl and development. And in fact, the title of the measure is to limit sprawl. So hopefully folks will get that.
Will that be laid out in the voters' pamphlet?
Yes.
Does the city council write the piece in the voters? Who writes that?
So I will be writing, I've taken responsibility for writing the pro argument for the charter amendment. And so I'll be working with my colleagues to do that.
People read it, they should understand it.
I hope so. I'll try to read it, I'll write it clearly. Oh, okay. Okay, great. Well, thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you. Thanks, everybody. Thanks,